Some relationships don't end because of betrayal. They end because growth changed the direction of your life. And honestly, that can feel confusing. Because you still care about the person, still love them, still remember what they meant to you. But something feels different now. The conversations feel forced. The connection feels heavy. The energy feels misaligned. And deep down, you know it. You're growing in a direction they no longer want to walk with you. That hurts, because most people assume every relationship is supposed to last forever. But Amos 3:3 asks a question that explains so much about life. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? Think about that. Walk together. Not stand near each other. Not occasionally interact. Walk together. Walking together requires alignment, direction, values, mindset, vision. And when those things begin changing inside one person, certain relationships naturally begin shifting. Today I'm going to show you why you keep outgrowing certain people. And the final reason explains why some separations are not rejection. They are preparation. Stay with me, because understanding this could free you from guilt you've carried for years. Number 1, growth changes what you tolerate. This is usually the first sign. Things that once felt normal start feeling draining. The gossip, the negativity, the constant chaos, the lack of accountability, the emotional immaturity. At one point, you fit naturally into those environments, but now your spirit reacts differently. Why? Because growth changes your appetite. And here's what most people miss. Outgrowing someone does not always mean you think you're better than them. It often means your inner world has changed. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Everything flows from it. That means as your heart changes, your boundaries change. Your conversations change. Your environment changes. And honestly, this can feel lonely at first, because the people who once felt familiar no longer feel aligned. You start craving peace instead of drama, depth instead of superficiality, growth instead of constant stagnation. And suddenly certain spaces feel emotionally exhausting, not because you hate people, because your spirit no longer fits comfortably where it once settled. But the process goes deeper. Number 2, some people only fit the old version of you. This one hurts, because sometimes relationships were built around who you used to be. The insecure version, the broken version, the distracted version, the undisciplined version. And when you start changing, the relationship starts struggling. Why? Because your growth disrupts the dynamic people became comfortable with. Some people liked you when you lacked boundaries, when you stayed small, when you constantly needed their approval. But growth changes that. You begin healing, thinking differently, protecting your peace, pursuing purpose. And suddenly certain people become uncomfortable around you. Not because you attack them, because your growth reminds them they stayed the same. That tension is real. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "If anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation." New creation. That means transformation changes identity. And honestly, not everyone connected to your old identity will feel comfortable with your new direction. Some relationships survive growth. Others were only sustained by dysfunction. That's difficult to accept, because many people keep trying to force old connections to survive, even after growth changed compatibility completely. But now we reach something even deeper. Number 3, different visions eventually create distance. This is one of the biggest reasons people drift apart. At first, you and someone may deeply connect. Same humor, same interests, same habits. But over time, vision starts shaping direction. One person wants growth, the other wants comfort. One wants healing, the other avoids change. One becomes spiritually focused, the other remains emotionally distracted. And eventually the paths separate naturally, because direction matters more than history. That's painful because history creates attachment. But Amos 3:3 asks, can two walk together unless they are agreed? Agreement is deeper than liking each other. It's alignment. And honestly, many people stay emotionally trapped in relationships built only on history, not destiny. Just because someone walked with you in one season does not guarantee they are assigned to every season. That's mature wisdom. Jesus loved everyone, but not everyone walked closely with him. Different levels of alignment create different levels of access. And some of you are emotionally exhausted because you keep trying to drag relationships into seasons they no longer fit. But the process becomes even more painful here. Number 4, your growth may trigger insecurity in others. This is where many people get confused. You start healing, growing, setting boundaries, becoming disciplined, and suddenly, certain people react negatively. They mock your growth, question your changes, call you different, accuse you of acting better. Why? Because growth exposes people. Light naturally reveals what darkness prefers hidden. And honestly, your transformation may silently confront areas others refuse to face in themselves. Not intentionally, naturally. When someone starts becoming healthier emotionally, unhealthy dynamics become harder to maintain. When someone becomes disciplined, comfortable excuses feel threatened. When someone starts walking closely with God, certain people become uncomfortable around conviction. John 3:20 says, "Everyone who does evil hates the light." That doesn't mean everyone opposing your growth is evil, but it does reveal something important. Growth changes relational dynamics, and some people would rather keep you familiar than watch you evolve beyond what benefits them. That's difficult to accept, because many people confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. But loyalty should not require destroying your peace, purpose, or spiritual growth. And honestly, one of the hardest lessons in life is realizing some people only loved the version of you they could control. But now we reach the deepest reason you outgrow certain people. Number 5, God sometimes separates people to protect your future. This changes everything, because not every separation is punishment. Some separations are protection. Certain environments cannot support who you are becoming. Certain relationships weaken your clarity, drain your discipline, pull you backward emotionally. And because God sees the full picture, He sometimes allows distance. Not because He wants isolation, because He values your future too much. Think about Abraham. God called him away from familiarity, away from comfort, away from environments connected to his old life. Why? Because purpose often requires separation. And honestly, many painful separations only make sense later. At first, they feel heartbreaking. Later, they look necessary. Because you realize certain people could not walk with you into the next chapter without damaging what God was building inside you. That's hard truth. But growth always creates separation somewhere. A seed separates from the shell before growth appears. Children separate from childhood before maturity develops. New seasons require old patterns to end. And spiritually, the same principle applies. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Let us throw off everything that hinders." Everything. Not only obvious sin. Anything slowing your spiritual direction. And honestly, some relationships are not evil. They're simply no longer aligned with where God is leading you. That matters, because many people feel guilty for outgrowing environments that were slowly suffocating their growth. But hear this clearly. Outgrowing someone is not always pride. Sometimes it's evidence that transformation is happening. You think differently now, value different things now, protect your peace differently now. That's growth. So let's go back to Amos 3:3. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? Walking together requires shared direction. And honestly, some of you are grieving relationships that ended simply because your paths changed. Not every separation requires hatred. Not every ending requires betrayal. Sometimes growth alone creates distance. And that's painful because humans naturally attach emotionally to familiarity. But God is more concerned with your purpose than your comfort. And some people cannot walk into your next season because they are deeply attached to your previous one. That's why discernment matters. Not everyone assigned to your past is assigned to your future. Some people were lessons, some were temporary support, some were companions for one chapter only, and that's okay. The goal is not to hate people, judge people, become cold. The goal is wisdom. To recognize when love no longer means full access. Jesus loved Judas, but he still recognized the difference between the crowd, the disciples, and the inner circle. Access matters. And some of you are emotionally drained because you keep reopening doors God quietly allowed to close. Hear this carefully. Growth will cost you certain relationships. Not because growth is wrong, because transformation changes alignment. You cannot become who God is calling you to be, while desperately clinging to every environment connected to who you used to be. That's impossible. And honestly, one day you may look back at certain separations and realize they were not losses. They were turning points. The moment your peace mattered more than familiarity. The moment your purpose mattered more than people-pleasing. The moment your growth became more important than staying emotionally comfortable. That's maturity. So if this message spoke to you, if you've been struggling with outgrowing people lately, type growth in the comments. Not because separation feels easy, but because you trust God is still guiding your direction. And remember this, not everyone who started the journey with you is meant to walk every mile beside you.